Hi Quilty friends! In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make these fun rosettes. Now the way this came about is I use pattern testers to test my quilt patterns before I release them, and I have some really wonderful pattern testers. And I send them usually some quilty notions that I make and sell in my Etsy shop. But I decided one day, as I was thinking to myself, pattern testers are so valuable, they deserve awards. They use their own fabric, they get them done before the deadlines, they send really detailed notes, and I thought, award ribbons, they need an award. And then I thought, I wonder if I could make my own, but use fabric, because we have tons of fabric and scraps, right? So I made these ribbons, and I thought, you know what? You might want to know how to make them too. Whether you are a quilt pattern designer looking to make something for your testers, or maybe you're wanting to make them for some type of school function, or even if you wanted to be able to make your own ribbons if you host a county quilt show or a regional quilt show, if you wanted to do something fun like that. So let's get started, and I'll show you all the supplies you need and how to make your very own quilty rosette. So the first thing that you're going to need to get is this item from Clover. It's called the Rosette Maker. And this is the large that I'm making. There's also a small, but this is really what you need to be able to get the really pretty pleats all the way around here. I tried to do it without that and it did not go well. So I got this on Amazon, I think maybe for $10, and you just keep reusing it. It comes with directions, although this is used with ribbon and I use fabric. So I'm going to show you how to actually use this to make yours. And within it, it also comes this little package. You can actually make two. I lost one of the little clips here, but it actually comes with these pieces that go along with it if you want to use the items in here. I had 10 of these to make, and I did not want to order. You can order this part here separately if you want. It's sold separately. If you don't want to have to buy this again, you can buy these. But I decided just to use what I had for what I was making it for. But I did want to let you know it does have this that comes with it. So you will need the Rosette Maker from Clover. You also need a pair of pinking shears. And these are what you'll use all along the edge of the fabric. After you've made this, we'll be cutting all around to keep it from fraying and also to make it look really pretty. Then you'll need, if you want, you don't have to use these, but I purchased these from Missouri Star Quilt Company and they are so fun. You get 4 of these in one package. And again, Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I'll link all of this for you in the description box below. You'll just need to click, there's an arrow, and it will expand the description box, and you can see all the links for all of this. So this is the only one they have with these 4, so I bought enough to be able to make them for my pattern testers, and they really say a lot of fun stuff. So you'll also need those if you want something fun in the middle for something quilty. If you don't, then you can use this piece right here, in which you'll be using your fabric to go over that. And if that's the case, you'll want to follow the directions in here, because this will show you how to use the center part to be able to make just maybe a round one without these patches. But I liked these patches. They have sticky on the back, and so they work really well for what I'm making them for. So I did want to let you know that was an option for you if you want to use fabric rather than the patches. You also need scraps, and so you'll need strips, and this strip that I'm using is 42 inches by 1.5, and that will ensure that you're able to go all the way around and also do that accordion loop the whole way around it as well. So you'll need one 42 by 1.5 inch strip, and then you'll also need, if you're making it the way I am, you'll also need a square piece of fabric in which you can cut a circle. So just whatever scrap fabric you have. This is what goes on the front, but I also use this as a template because you need a piece of round fabric to go on the back to actually cover up these ribbons that are glued inside of there, and it covers up all of the frayed loose fabric under there too, so it just makes it look pretty. So I just use this as a template to be able to go around it. Again, you could use this as well if you're wanting to make it that way. Just make sure that when you cut your fabric, the circle is big enough to cover everything behind here. Okay, so those are the items that you'll need to be able to make this super fun quilty rosette. You also will want ribbon. I've got rolls of ribbon like this I get from Goodwill. Often I just collect them, so I have different colors and different widths. So I picked a very, very thin one here to be able to have something for my pattern testers to hang this from. If you look on the kit here, it actually comes with a clip if you're wanting to make these that actually people get to pin them to their clothing. But for purposes that I needed it for, I just used a piece of ribbon here, and just use a really thin piece so they can hang it. And then whatever kind of widths of strips, you can use that. You could also use fabric. So I used fabric for my tails and combined it with ribbons. And I used on this one thicker fabric strips. So you don't have to have the ribbon here like this. It's definitely up to you. You can do it both ways. Okay, the first thing that you're going to want to do is take your rosette maker and your long strip of fabric here, and you're going to actually put it, you see right there, underneath like that. Okay, to get it started. And I just tuck that tail there on that side because we're going to end back here. And what you do is you literally just take your finger and you push the ribbon through. And you'll want to try to get it as even as possible so that you make sure that you don't end up with not enough fabric. So you just kind of have to maneuver it a little bit there. And you will just keep on tucking that through there like this. So you see that effect there? It's making this ribbon like that. And you keep doing it. Now, one thing you need to do is make sure that these are overlapping the one behind it. So that way they lay correctly. So you just keep taking your fabric, feed it through there with your fingers. Just kind of get it situated how you like it. And again, making sure that there is enough there so that it covers, you know, the next one behind it. So you will just keep on feeding that through. And this really is what takes the longest part, is just kind of feeding that through there like that and getting it the way that you like it. Okay, now we are getting close to the end here, and again, you just kind of make sure you've pressed it all the way to the edge here. And when you get to almost this last one, I want to show you kind of how to do this as far as tucking it. So you've got on the back your tail hanging down here. Okay, you've got a tail hanging down. So once you get this on your last little spot there, you're going to leave the tail back behind here, okay, because you're going to end up cutting it off. And this one actually came out. Let me loop that one back there like that. Okay, there we go. So it's a little bit tricky right there at the end with making sure both of those are tucked behind where they're like this, because you're actually going to end up cutting those off once you get this put together. So just kind of look at everything. When you get to this part here, make sure you've got an even amount. That one needs to come out just a little more. There we go. So that you make sure they're overlapping. You see how all of that overlaps like this? Okay. Now, what you're going to do is, I showed you that in the rosette maker, it comes with these stickers to be able to make, I'm sorry, this makes one rosette, not two. I apologize for that. You'll take these stickers and you'll place these here. So I'm going to go ahead and use these just to use them up. But I also have some of my other stickers that I have. And if you've got round stickers, or you even wanted to use maybe labels that you know, can cut out from labels that you would put through a printer, you can do that too. But you need 2 stickers to be able to stick on both sides, because that's going to keep all of your fabric in place, and then it's going to stick to the other side here, right like that. So let me show you how this works. So you peel this off. And then you go ahead and stick that on there really, really well. One of the reasons I like to use my stickers is they're a little bit larger, and I feel like it really ensures that everything stays stuck. And you'll peel it off, and then you'll also put it on the back, like so. Okay, and just make sure everything's pressed really tightly, because when we slowly pull this out, you don't want all of your beautiful little accordion folds here to come undone. And you see right there, that's where you gotta be a little careful. A couple of those wanted to sneak right out of there. So you have to make sure you put that sticker really good in the right place, okay? So make sure 2 stickers placed together like this, keeping everything together. Now, you're gonna hold tightly here with your thumb, your fingers, and you're slowly gonna pull out the fabric, okay? You just kind of keep your thumb there. You see where I'm keeping it? Right up against here. And then slowly pull that out. Without your fabric coming out of its little accordion there, okay? So you've got that on both sides there. Now, you can take your snips if you want and just cut back part of the ribbon that's sticking out right there from the tail. Make sure you can't see that from the front. Snip those off. And you see why you're going to need pinking shears, because oftentimes the fabric will fray. Okay, so that is the next step with your Quilty rosette. Now you'll take another piece of scrap fabric, and I'm just actually going to use one of these patches to cut out my circle here. And it's up to you how you do it. You could just cut around it, or you could trace it and cut it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to go on the back of the ribbon to basically cover, or the back of the rosette, to basically cover up where you glue your ribbon, so that it actually looks pretty if you know, whoever has it were to turn it over. So I just kind of eyeball it, hold it there, and I use my pinking shears, one so it doesn't fray, and also so that it looks pretty. So this here is going to go on the back of the rosette like this. Ultimately, you can see what happens there. So before you glue that down, you're going to want to get your ribbons that you're going to use. So for me, I'm going to use, I think, 2 of these teal color, and then you're going to need, this is 7 inches long, and that's going to go up here like this so that they can hang it from somewhere. So 7 inches for that, and then these are roughly about 6.5, 7 inches. You can cut whatever length you want. I think what I'm going to do though for 2 other ribbons is I'm going to actually just use more fabric in which the colors kind of coordinate. And I'll just cut those like that. And cut all the way around if you want. Okay, so I went ahead and used the pinking shears and just cut all the way around my ribbons here. So I'm going to flip it over, turn it on the back, Doesn't really matter the direction, but just make sure you know which way you want it to go. Probably line it up where the little tails are there. And then you're going to use, I use fabric tack because it's permanent glue for fabric. And I'll just put some right here because that's how I'm going to glue down these pieces of ribbon. So I think I'll put one there. And this might need a little bit more glue. Put this one this way. And then I'll put these two here in the middle. And so you're going to go ahead and just glue these pieces of ribbon where you want them. And you don't have to use a ton of glue because you're going to be putting, remember, this on top of it, and actually you'll be sewing around it. And I'll show you how to do that in just a sec. And so get those glued there wherever you think they look pretty. And then on this one, you'll do the same thing right there. I think on maybe one of my first ones that I did, I actually attached the ribbon afterwards, this ribbon afterwards, but it actually looks a little more tidy if you go ahead and do it now. Just cross those there like that, like that. And then you're going to put a little bit of glue to hold this down like that. So again, you'll put, I tend to put a little bit more, even though we're going to be sewing from the front to sew down our little badge here. I try to get enough glue where it's going to stay fairly well. And then you'll just place that on the back. And then it just covers up all those loose ends that you had there. Okay, so that's the back. Isn't that pretty? And then I think I'm going to use, I think one of the ones with the orange maybe on it. So that's what I'm going to use for my center. So this is the one I've chosen. It coordinates the colors with the fabric I'm using. And this one says, quilting is the best medicine, and I believe that is true, don't you? So this has sticky on the back. You peel this off. And they're sticky here, which is really, really nice. It keeps it in place. So make sure you hold it exactly where you want it, and make sure you're covering up that sticker. Sometimes when I use this one, I have to be a little extra careful because it's a little wider than this one. And then I will place it right there and just press it down really good. And at first I didn't stitch, but then I decided I really felt like I needed to keep it in place, and then it also stitches this down on the back. So you'll press it like this, and then we will take this to our sewing machine and stitch this down. Now I have a semi-industrial Juki sewing machine, so it can sew through a lot. Like it can sew through leather and what have you. So I haven't had any trouble at all with sewing through these layers. But you may need to use a bigger needle than your typical piecing size. And I'm just using 50 weight Aurifil thread, and it's just kind of a cream color that I had in there. So I'm stitching around my patch right here along the edge. And since the back is a little bit larger than this, it's going to catch this as well and sew that down. So you'll just back stitch and then just sew in a circle. And you may have to just slightly readjust it to keep your circle even. But this is actually really reinforcing those ribbons down there that you glued, which that is permanent glue, but it just kind of keeps that in place. And you'll just sew all the way around. And I really like these quilty patches because the way they're made, it gives you room here to sew between the words and the edge of the patch. Got my little sewing helper in here with me. And then once you get to the end, you'll back stitch and then cut your threads. Oops, that one didn't cut. And there we go. So now you've stitched, and as you can see, you were able to catch all of that on the back. These ribbons here and this ribbon as well. Your last step is to use your pinking shears to cut all the way around, because you see this will fray really easily if you don't. Just make sure you have your ribbons out of the way so you don't accidentally cut those. And I just kind of keep my finger here to hold it back. And then I just go through in a circle and cut the edges. And I think it makes it look pretty. I mean, it's up to you if you don't want to do this, but I quickly noticed it would fray if I did not use pinking shears. And you'll just trim all the way around. And there we go, Quilty friend. You have your very own Quilty rosette that you can use for all kinds of purposes. Like I mentioned, mine are going to my wonderful pattern tester so they can hang these in their sewing space to remember how much I appreciate them, all they do for testing my patterns. And you could write something on the back here, so I usually write Love Belle and thank you on there. You also could make these to use for your kiddos, for school, for awards. They would be fun to make for your guild. For any kind of awards or thank yous that you want to use there, or maybe even for some kind of county fair, for awards for quilt shows, or what have you. And of course, it's a great place to be able to use your scraps. We have so many of them. So I'm Belle from Seam Sew Me. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please like this video if you found it helpful and subscribe for future tutorials. And until next time, Quilty friends, make lovely things.